Hey Froshies, welcome to your claim evidence reasoning candy activity. If you are watching this video, you are probably absent. In this assignment, we are going to be doing some candy tasting, so you guys could either go off of memory and do this at home, or you guys can come back tomorrow, come in, try the candy if you can, and then finish this assignment. So that's really up to you guys. Your learning targets for today: I can answer a question using a claim, I can use proper evidence to support my claim, and I can tie my evidence to my claim by explaining my reasoning. So we use claim evidence and reasoning in science to take a look at our data, answer a question, and then kind of use that data to draw conclusions about the question we're answering. So we're going to go over some of the stuff today and some of the examples for you guys before you get started. Okay, the first activity you guys have is your notes. Notice the little question mark. That means there's something you guys have to do with this. In this case, you guys are not doing anything in the assignment for this particular slide, but you do need to have your notes. This is stuff that needs to be added to your notes page. If you haven't gotten that notes page yet, make sure you guys come in and grab that. You guys can leave it in class or come get it from class and do it whatever you guys need to do. So on the back side of your guys' notes at the bottom, you guys see these little icons, this question, claim, evidence, and reasoning. You have some blanks to fill in there. Okay, so question, the process starts with a question or a problem that you want to solve. Okay, in the example we're going to talk today is which candy is the best. Okay, your guys' claim is going to be one sentence, and it's going to be an answer to that question. I think the best candy is blank. Okay, so make sure you fill in those blanks. And then your evidence, this is probably the biggest one I'm going to stress for you guys this year. We're going to talk a lot about evidence, and then we're going to start putting a lot more emphasis on reasoning. But for the first part of the year, we're definitely going to talk the most about evidence. Okay, so evidence is the data that supports your claim. If you guys are just saying Snickers is the best candy, that's an opinion until you guys start throwing solid evidence at it and good evidence. And that's going to be part of what you guys learn is what is good evidence. Okay, if we're going to make a claim, how are we going to support that claim properly? Okay, typically if you guys look at the handle here, it says you should have multiple pieces of evidence. I want to see 2 or 3 pieces of evidence depending on what we're doing in class. And then finally, reasoning is your explanation for how or why the evidence supports and connects the data to the claim. So that's kind of our tie-in is, all right, here's our claim, here's our evidence. How do they tie together? That's your guys' reasoning. Okay. The other thing I want you guys to add, there's not a spot for this, but near your little magnifying glass here for evidence, I want you guys to add evidence is, okay, and then draw arrows to these things here. Okay, so evidence is not an explanation. You're not explaining why or how. That's the reasoning, is the why or the how. Okay, evidence is specific. It's not an opinion, okay? So if you guys are saying Snickers is the best because it tastes the best, that's an opinion, okay? Where's your fact at? So evidence is fact, okay? Sometimes we might have our data be observations. It might be qualitative data versus quantitative data. So our data could, or our evidence could be observations, like Snickers is made of peanuts, caramel, nougat, and chocolate. That's strictly an observation or a fact, however you guys want to look at that. Evidence, the biggest ones I want to put details on is you should typically have some kind of evidence that's numbers. Evidence is numbers. Numbers kind of tell us that this is fact. Okay, it's detailed, it's data driven. Okay, where's your guys' science behind this? That's your evidence. We're in a science class. You guys got to use science to use the evidence, right? To back it up with evidence. Okay, it's facts, it's descriptions. Again, that's kind of along the line of observations or qualitative data. Okay, so I want you guys to add those as well to your notes right next to your little magnifying glass for evidence. So here's some examples for you guys. Must be a question. That's going to be our question for today. Very similar. What is the best candy? In today's activity, we're going to be using specific candies. So you guys are going to be deciding out of 6 different candies, which is the best. Okay, the CER process must start with a question or a problem that needs to be solved. In this case, again, what is the best candy? Okay, what is a claim? Claims are a one sentence. Usually you start your paragraph with that one sentence or your claim. It's kind of like your guys' topic sentence. What is this little paragraph or this little writing going to be about? Which is the best candy? Answer that question. Claims are a one sentence statement that answer a scientific question. Okay, then you guys are going to use evidence to back your guys' claim up. Evidence is the data that supports your claim. You should have multiple pieces of data. Okay, Snickers is the best candy because it has caramel and nuts. Fact, right? That's an observation, that's a description, however you guys want to look at that, that's a fact. Okay, it is also the best because it's the most filling. I really don't like that piece of evidence. Okay, that piece of evidence really seems kind of vague. It makes it sound like an opinion. Maybe it is the most filling, but where's the data to support that? So I think the first part of this evidence is really good, but the second piece really isn't that strong for evidence, right? It's the most filling. Something that you guys could look for is, where's the research behind that? Maybe you look up the protein content, right? Protein's one of the reasons we are satisfied when we eat a Snickers. Okay, so because of the peanuts in that, what is the protein content? Okay, is that higher than other candies? I think comparisons are also a really good option for your guys's candy. In fact, I would go and say comparisons are going to be something we want to add here. So let's make sure we add that to our notes as well. Comparisons are really great as well, so make sure you guys add that. Okay, all right, going back to that, so I think one piece of that evidence is great, the other one's not very strong and could be strengthened with some actual data. Okay, and then finally our reasoning, remember that's the how or the why. So reasoning is your explanation for how the evidence or why the evidence supports and connects the data to the claim. So here's your guys' reasoning for this specific CER. Based on the evidence, so that's a really great sentence starter. I'm going to introduce you guys to those as well. Snickers is clearly the best candy due to the many added ingredients. I think that directly addresses the evidence piece that talks about the fact that it has caramel, nuts, chocolate, nougat, that kind of thing. So there's one piece of reasoning for that piece of evidence. The second reasoning that they add on here, it also has the ability to satisfy consumers. Again, I think that reasoning is great. I think it's just lacking the strength in that evidence to really make that claim. So I think those are both great. Notice again that each piece of evidence is addressed in your guys' reasoning. So many added ingredients, ability to satisfy consumers. Okay. All right, moving on. What you guys are going to be doing today is tasting 6 different types of candy. We're going to first start by kind of identifying, all right, we have the 2 sweet candies. Out of the 2 sweet candies, which is the best? Sour candies, which is the best? And then spicy candies, which is the best? And then overall, out of all 6 candies, which are the best? So your 6 candies you guys will be trying is for your sweet candy. I have gummy bears and I have Skittles. Okay, so you guys are going to try a Skittle, you're going to try a gummy bear. We're going to collect some class data. So you guys will be able to look at that when you get back. I'll leave it up on the board for you guys. Okay, your sour candy, we've got the Trolley gummy worms. Okay, and then we've got Sour Patch Kids. Okay, and then, so you guys will be writing little CERs there. So out of the 2, which is the best candy? What is your evidence? You guys should try to find 2 to 3 pieces of evidence. And your reasoning. Same with your sour candy. What's your best out of the sour candies? What's your evidence for that? Your guys' class numbers would definitely be part of that. And then you guys will have to be crafty and think of something that isn't an opinion. Okay, for your guys' sour candy. And then what's your reasoning for both of those? What's your tie-in? And then finally for your spicy candy, we've got hot tamales. And just to throw a kink in this, we've got Tajín flavored peachy rings. Okay, so if you guys have ever had Tajín, it's like a spicy, like a Mexican spice. I like it, but we'll see what you guys think. Okay, so again, out of those 2, which is the best? What's your evidence for that? And then what's your reasoning? So remember, these could be observations, but it's not opinion. Okay, so 2 to 3 pieces of evidence, and then your reasoning for both of those pieces of evidence. Finally, you guys will take a look, ultimately, what is the best? Okay, out of all 6 candies, which one is the best? Okay, you guys will answer using your claim. Okay, here's some sentence starters for you. I think that, or the evidence shows that, which is the best candy. So that's just really a simple sentence. I think this is the best candy. Okay, so 1 sentence on your claim. Your evidence, remember you need 2 to 3 pieces of evidence. Okay, so here's some sentence starters. Data shows, evidence shows, it is observed that, studies show. Again, if you guys are confused, go back to your notes page and look at what evidence is and make sure your 2 to 3 pieces of evidence meet those criteria. Okay, so again, you need 2 to 3 pieces of evidence here. And then your reasoning, you guys should address each piece of evidence in your reasoning. How does each of your 2 to 3 pieces of evidence tie back into your claim? Some great sentence starters. This means blank because This implies blank because this proves blank because obviously your guys' blanks there would be that this is the best candy. Because, notice the because on all of these. That's that why or that how. Okay, and then based on the evidence, I can infer blank because. So there's your guys' claim evidence reasoning for today. And then we're going to take a look at some good and bad examples tomorrow. Okay, and then what did you enjoy most about today's lesson? This is your guys' exit ticket for today. What did you learn from the lesson, and why is this important to science? So think about this whole process about what we're learning about today. Why is it important from science? Okay, if you guys have any questions, let me know. I hope you're having a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.